Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Jeanna.
And I'm Ivo.
I would officially like to wish my husband, Ivo, happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm going to give myself a round of applause.
I mean, obviously, we're filming this the day before his birthday, but when this episode goes live, it is his birthday.
It'll be my birthday. Usually they have those like little sound clips. We need one of those.
That would mean that we need a third person.
No. They have like I could definitely like moderate that here, which is I could press a button. I think we had that on the other stuff that we were.
Yeah, no, we don't need you doing any other stuff.
No.
No. So
DJ Evo in the mix.
Let's cheers to your birthday,
Right.
and let's cheers to Friday.
And Cinco de Mayo.
Oh yes,
Cheers.
I forgot about Cinco de Mayo.
Today there's a lot of people drinking today.
And we are following along suit because that is definitely tequila in my cup.
Oh yeah.
I was not prepared for that. I forgot that we were drinking. But what I will say is that even though it's Evo's birthday, sadly, we have decided to talk about what is trending in the news right now. And it is an intense topic.
Definitely not a celebration.
No, it's an intense topic for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, when we decided that we were going to talk about what is trending in the news right now, which is the possible overturning of Roe versus Wade, it got heavy between you and I. And not in the way that I think people would think. People would probably think that because I'm a woman and you're a man, that we would be on opposing ends, or we would have like completely different views. I think that you could visibly see my frustration and my pain that I was feeling about the possibility of this constitutional right being overturned. And in all honesty, I've been kind of dreading doing this episode. We've been talking about it now for like 3-4 days since the news was leaked.
Yeah.
So I think it was Monday night that they leaked the news to Politico. And since that day, I'm like dreading it because it's such a heavy conversation, and I wasn't sure if I was able to have this conversation, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, researching the issue myself, and getting familiar with the facts, I was becoming very disturbed.
Yeah.
With what was going on. I really wasn't in tune with it. You know, I follow a lot of financial things, and so when it comes to politics, I'm not really like into politics that much. So when I really started digging into this and, you know, uncovering the truth of what is going on, it really bothered me, you know, and I'm very much for women's rights. So to find out, you know, what's going on and the way that they're going about it, really bothered me.
So just to unpack this a little bit for anyone that is not familiar as to what we are talking about, late Monday evening, there was a draft opinion that was leaked to Political News. It is a like website that you can go on and obviously find things about articles that are happening in politics. So this draft opinion was leaked, and it was from the Supreme Court justices that basically, in summary, said that they were looking to overturn Roe versus Wade this coming summer.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot more that goes into this draft opinion. One of the things that I find the most interesting about this leak is that the Supreme Court justices are not denying that that was an actual authentic draft. It did come from them.
Right.
They're more upset at the fact that it was leaked. They feel like it was a breach of their secrecy that they have when it comes to being a Supreme Court justice.
Right.
And more so of the privacy that was violated.
That's definitely part of it.
Yeah. So that being said, there's obviously a lot of uproar happening. The uproar, I feel like, is coming from so many different sides. I think that's why it's got me so wound up. And I'm going to do my best, ladies and gentlemen, to keep my feelings aside this episode. And I just kind of want to talk about what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, just to try to talk it out. Because if I put all of my feelings into this, I'm going to be upset. Let's just be 100% real. And I'll just put it out there right now. I am pro-choice. So I just want to put my feelings aside, and we're just going to talk about what I'm seeing and what I'm reading.
So did you get the full understanding of how it came to this point? Like, why were the Supreme Justices even discussing this? Okay, so what is your take on that?
Well, it has to do with a law that is trying to be passed in Mississippi.
Right.
So yes. The Mississippi law is trying to institute a 15-week abortion law ban, and the state is basically arguing against the one abortion clinic that is in Mississippi. It is now being reviewed by the Supreme Court. Since it's being reviewed by the Supreme Court, to my understanding, this is making the Supreme Court re-look into Roe versus Wade.
So actually, it's the Mississippi court heard a case called Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, where the state wanted to ban abortion after 15 weeks from the current 20 weeks. Mm-hmm. In their argument, they actually won the case.
Who's they?
Mississippi. So they won the case, but it instantly got appealed. Mm-hmm. And in the appeal process, the Mississippi, they've been arguing that because the Supreme Court justices, it's more geared towards the liberal side. They've been really kind of like putting pressure on them to sustain the appeal, and because it's like almost like they're seeing it as an opportunity, they've been pushing. They're taking this opportunity to push the issue, and they're adding on top of that that if they win this court case, if they win this appeal, that with the appeal that they revoke Roe versus Wade. Like it's something that they like bolted on.
I just want to make one correction in the statement that you just made. The Supreme Court justices is not more liberal. They are actually 6 conservatives versus 3 liberals.
Thank
so
you.
It
yes,
is
I meant to say more conservative. Yeah. Yes, that's my fault.
That is why they are pushing the envelope.
They're seeking to take advantage of that and use that opportunity to push another agenda. It's almost like, when you have these bills, and that when they're brought up, to vote on the Senate, they have all these other little things bolted onto it.
Correct.
That's pretty much what's going on here, and that's how the Roe versus Wade
conversation came
about. And of course, the Supreme Court justices, they met in private about it, and
they made a draft opinion.
And man, it's so there's a portion of the draft that states, okay, I have to read this, which it's very disturbing to me that they're even pointing this out. But so the draft was an opinion to turn Roe versus Wade Constitution. It basically it's saying that the Constitution does not prohibit the people of each state to regulate or prohibit abortion. And so Roe versus Wade did away with that authority. That's kind of what they're recognizing, like that the Constitution and the federal government should have never intervened, because it's the state's there's nothing in the Constitution that says that the state and the people can't regulate that on their own. And so with I keep mispronouncing it, but with Roe versus Wade in place in the Constitution, it prohibited the people of the state to even be able to deal with that amongst themselves. And so that's kind of the argument that they're pointing out here. That's the opinion of the Supreme Court justices. Yeah. And that's kind of like what the
basically
way that they're
seeing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but basically what they're saying is that the federal government never should have had their hand in abortion rights to begin with. It should have been up to the individual states to make that decision how they want to handle abortion.
Yes.
And that is why right now we have such a divide in the United States when it comes to abortion. There was a poll that was taken in the New York Times to try to get a better understanding of what people or how people felt about abortion, if they were for it, if they were against it, or if they were against it, but with certain like stipulations.
Yeah.
54% of the U.S. population is for completely abortion.
54, I think it's 55, I think.
Okay, 55% of the U.S. population is for legal abortion across the board.
Yeah.
The other remaining 45% is a mixture of people who are completely against it, which is in like the 13% category, with the remaining percentage being against it with certain stipulations such as rape, incest, or if it threatens the life of the mother.
Right.
That being said, I find it disturbing that the Supreme Court justices are not looking at what I would consider the full picture. If the majority, which is 55%, are saying that they are for abortion, then why is the majority of the citizens of the United States, why is their voice being ignored? This is what I find so upsetting. Because it seems like the agenda is now being pushed more towards the minority. The minority versus the majority. So to me, that's not a reflection of what the people of this country want.
So here's an interesting fact. That poll was taken based on voters. So it's a question that you get when you vote.
Okay.
And so that's how they got those numbers. So it accurately represents.
Are you referring to the New York Times?
No, I'm referring to the percentage of the poll that you were referring to, the data that you were referring to. Those are based on voters. The 55% of people who are against. Are for abortion, and the other 30% that want it illegal, but
with certain parameters.
With the stipulation of rape or incest or danger to the mother, and the other 11% is they want it completely legal. These are based on voter polls.
Okay. I'm actually referring to a poll that was conducted by New York Times.
Okay.
So maybe we're referring to two different sort of information.
Well, that's a very large poll to have that much data that reflects the whole United States. Mm-hmm. So I would think that in order to get data like that, okay, it would be from something as large as.
I'm not going to refute that statement right now, Ivo.
Okay, I'm not trying to refute it.
No. But I'm not gonna argue with you whether or not the New York Times, because based on my information, it was a poll done by the New York Times. That being said, you're saying it was a poll based on voters. Either or, our numbers are the same.
Yeah, they're just about the same. But the point that I'm trying to make is that it's just voters. Like, there's so much more of the country that is not accurately represented as far as how they feel on this matter.
Considering that not everybody votes.
Yes. And so one could argue that the Supreme Court justices feel that there's a certain part of the American people that they maybe still need to speak for. So this is in reference to you saying, how is it that they can make this decision when the majority of the people are for abortion? Mm-hmm. There's a whole part of the country that we don't know. And the Supreme Court justices can use that as leverage. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They can argue that, we don't really know for sure.
That makes sense. But I'm going to tell you why, on the flip side of that, to me, that still doesn't make enough sense for me to understand it. Is because within the Supreme Court justices, the conservatives are the ones that are arguing potentially overturning Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
Which would mean that they are then saying that they are representing more of the people within the country that are conservative, that maybe their numbers are not represented.
Yeah, that's just my personal opinion on what an argument they could potentially present based on the question that you just asked. The other thing is that...
Do you actually think that there are more conservatives that are not voting, that their numbers are not actually being represented?
I'm sure the liberals would like to think so. Do you see how it leaves an area of leverage?
No, I think what you're saying is that the conservatives would like to think so, because if they're arguing for the people or the reflection of numbers.
I don't know why I keep reversing those, but yes, I'm sorry, you're right. The conservatives, yes, they would like to think so. For sure.
They would like to think so. They would like to say, okay, there are conservatives throughout our great nation that are underrepresented when it comes to the views on abortion. I'll be honest, Ivo, and I hear you on that. I find that so hard to believe. But that's just my personal opinion.
It's just my personal opinion too. I mean, I'm just trying, when you ask the question, how can they do this? When you have numbers that reflect what the people want, what argument could what could be the answer to that? Mm-hmm. And that was one that I just thought of. I mean, who knows if that's even accurate? But I'm just trying to like play both sides of the fence here. I mean, I'm obviously, for women's rights. I think that this is completely ridiculous that they're even discussing this or even thinking about doing this.
Well, it has to be a discussion, unfortunately.
I mean, but it's been a discussion for so many years.
Correct. And that is because there are still people that live in the United States that feel that abortion is morally wrong. So it's going to be a constant conversation, regardless of the fact that there was a law put in place in 1973. 50 years later, we're still fucking having this conversation. Yes. So I know that you say that it's ridiculous, but one thing I can tell you is that because you and I live in the tri-state, we live in what I consider a very diverse bubble, right? We're very used to being around people that are like-minded, that would see the thought of Roe V Wade being overturned as absurd. But I have traveled to Middle America.
Right.
And I've seen and I've spoken and heard people have conversations in front of me, around me, that were shocking to me. Because it broke my perception of the bubble that I lived in the more northeast tri-state area. A lot of the times I just kept to myself because these were short visits. These were things that were work related. So I really had no place taking part in some of the conversations and some of the behaviors that I saw. And it made me realize that regardless of the fact that we live in a country that we may feel we are United States, we are very divided.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying.
So whereas you and I may see this conversation as ridiculous, there are people in the middle of America, in the Midwest, in the South, because let's be real, we're talking about the conservative states that are arguing this, that feel like we're the ridiculous ones, that we're not respecting human life, that we're not respecting a fetus, that we're not respecting the heartbeat of a child, of a fetus, of an infant, unborn child. So to them, we're ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I'm sure those people, they live amongst us here in the tri-state as well. I can't say that everybody's,
I know, but we live in blue states.
Yeah, we live in a blue state. Yeah, absolutely.
We're the majority. So more than likely, we're going to come across people that are like-minded, especially in the circles that we run in the areas that we live in. So it's harder for us to come across someone with an opposing view. So I am really trying to understand where some of these thought processes come from, because I more recently heard a statement that really made me rethink what it is to be offended by something that someone has said. And it says, I don't have to like what you're saying, but you still have the right to say it.
Right.
And more so, it's important that I hear what you have to say, because if I don't give you the opportunity to hear what you have to say, then how will I ever gain any understanding or any perspective of a totally different view, right? If I completely reject it. So I'm like really trying to put myself in shoes of someone that is very passionate and adamant about being pro-life. And I've been thinking about this for the past 4 days. And I can't tell you, I have not brought myself to really understand. I understand the value of life completely because I'm a mother. I've had children. I know that feeling of giving birth to a human. That being said, because I value life so much, I could never imagine what I believe in saying to someone, because these are my beliefs, you should not be allowed to conduct your life in the way that is best suited, healthy, however, whatever the parameters are of why a woman chooses to have an abortion, I don't think that it is my right to say you don't have that right because of my moral views. And let's be honest, I feel like a lot of these moral views are based in religion. And you know how I feel about religion.
Right.
And I'm going to be real about that. So with that, when I think about it as a whole, I understand a conservative's view of respecting life and honoring life. But then how are you not honoring the life that's right in front of you?
Yeah. Well, do you think that they feel obligated to speak up for a life that doesn't have a choice? For a life that maybe should have a chance? Do you think that there's a moral obligation to some people to feel that every life should have a chance? Mm-hmm. And that should not be taken away from anyone?
I'm going to say that I understand that. I understand that argument completely. But when that life is inside of another human being, I still feel like it should be within control of the person that is carrying that entity. Yeah. And I'm going to refer to it as...
This is the dilemma, you know?
I'm still going to refer to it as a fetus, as an entity, because based on science, and that is something that I'm going to look to, is science. Because 50 years ago, we don't have the science that we have today. You know, back in the fucking 70s, women were getting x-rays. So what we understood about a fetus 50 years ago is very different from what we understand in a fetus now. And based on science, a fetus cannot live outside of the womb up until 23 to 25 weeks. So it is not considered a viable life.
Okay, but this is a fact?
I said based on science, which is proven.
Okay.
So that being said, I still feel like it should be up to the person that is carrying the fetus.
I agree with you.
But I still respect someone who is pro-life and their view of life. I respect that. But I hate to say it, I respect more the person that is carrying that.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that people who are pro-life should exercise those rights and beliefs on themselves.
Correct.
Rather than projecting them onto other people.
Correct.
And that everyone should have their own choice to make, whether they want to be pro-life or pro-choice.
Correct. That is Ivo. That is in a nutshell how I feel. So I want to ask you, if Roe V Wade is overturned this coming summer, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, I'm trying to be optimistic about it. Mm-hmm. And I haven't thought about it like that. Because I believe that I honestly believe that it won't happen. I don't believe it'll happen right now in this current situation that's going on.
Okay, explain why not.
And because I feel that because it was something that was added on to a case, mm-hmm. that, and then with everything else that's going on with the leak and all of that, it wasn't something that was initially being sought after. It wasn't something that particular issue was being brought up on its own. Mm-hmm. And so I feel that there's an opportunity here for them to say, okay, we are going to allow Mississippi the law to pass where now it is illegal to have abortions after 15 weeks. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to allow the overturn of Roe versus Wade. Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity to give a win to Mississippi and yet still uphold the decision that was made by the Supreme Court back in 1973. Mm-hmm. Because just for the simple fact that they're even entertaining this really kind of like sets a tone amongst the Supreme Court that doesn't really happen, which is you overturning decisions that were made in the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. They're treading very dangerous waters here. And if they do this, it's going to leave a scar on the Supreme Court justice that I don't know if they're going to want to wear, and what that's going to do in the future as far as the Supreme Court justice and how things are handled in the respect of decisions that were made by previous justices. It's really murky water as far as like things that you do and things that you don't do. It's like opening up a whole new avenue of shit. So, I don't know. I feel like, yes, it'll be a win for the conservative, but it'll be a loss for the history of the Supreme Court justices.
Okay, very well put. I respect that. I can't say whether or not I think this is actually going to happen or not going to happen. The fact that we have 6 conservatives sitting in the Supreme Court justice makes me very weary. Because now the conservative justices are the majority.
Yeah, they don't...
Which is representing the minority, which is...
Right.
I take that like... It's honestly, Ivo, it scares me. Like, I literally feel fear.
Yeah.
And I feel fear for many reasons. I feel fear, one, because I'm a woman. I feel fear because I have a daughter. I have fear because I have friends that are women that have daughters. I have cousins. I have aunts that have daughters. Like, it is just the amount of women that are important to my life that this will affect. The thought of Roe versus Wade being officially overturned puts fear in me. It puts fear in me for the present and for the future. So I hope that what you're saying holds some viable weight based on the fact that, yeah, it'd be a win for the conservatives, but it would be like a stain on the Supreme Court justices. Because it's like, at that point, what else can be overturned? Because Biden came out and said there were other things written in that draft that were pointing at other things that potentially would want to be revisited, like gay marriage.
Yeah. So,
or same-sex marriage.
Yeah, and so this is the issue at hand here. This particularly could open up Pandora's box, and now just shit can just be overturned left and right.
Well, that being said, there are already states that are putting into place really restrictive laws, such as Texas.
Yeah, they went out and they just said, "Fuck the bullshit. We're taking control of our own shit and we're doing whatever the fuck we want."
I will say that we live in the state of New Jersey, and our governor came out and said that if for any reason Roe versus Wade is overturned, he will ensure that our state will still be a safe state for women to make their own choice, which I applaud him for that. But that being said, when we think about states like Texas that as of September 2021 enacted the heartbeat law, which a woman cannot have an abortion after 6 weeks, and anyone that is caught conspiring to help a woman have an abortion can receive a fine up to $10,000.
Yeah, and this is in direct violation of the Constitution, Roe versus Wade. I mean, it's literally like
because
a big go fuck yourself.
Roe argued that you are basically invading her privacy, her private life. Mm-hmm. And I think a woman seeking an abortion is something that runs directly with her private life, especially considering maybe I would look at it as it wasn't so private if we had universal health care and the government said, you know what, we have taxpayers that put into some of these services that women receive for prenatal, abortion, pregnancy. No, we don't have that. So to me, the way that I look at it is, what right does the government have to say we should prevent a woman from seeking something in her private health care outlet? Whether she's doing it through her own healthcare, through her work, or if she is paying it out of pocket, however this woman is choosing to, wouldn't you consider that private?
To an extent, because again, this is a very gray area. One can argue that the taking of a life is quote unquote murder.
Correct, but again,
so that
I'm just going to refer back to science. It is not a viable life up until 23
I understand what science says, but the law says something different.
I know, but
so, and the law the law does not technically follow science. Okay, the law follows the law, and when it comes to there's no fine line. I mean, it's, if there's a law set in place, you break that law, you're gonna have a penalty to pay for breaking that law.
Completely understand that. And what I find so interesting about that statement, and I know you're just saying that based off of what you've learned, right, not your personal opinion.
It's not my personal opinion.
What I find so interesting about that statement is that the law is not going to respect science, but they're going to respect religion. Because again, if anyone is going to sit in front of me and tell me that these moral values are not based in religion, I would like someone to prove me otherwise.
Well, the conflict that you have here is you have a very old system with a new system. So science is constantly evolving and developing and producing new information that changes what we used to know about human life and many other things. The law is so old, and rarely is it ever like updated and changed to fit our
to reflect the current times,
to reflect our, I was about to say, to fit our new way of living. I feel like the law should kind of be revamped every so many years. Every law that was written after so many years should be revisited and reevaluated to today's society, and to see if it even applies, or if there's any changes that should be made. Because science is like that. So you find new things, and all of a sudden it changes the way that the old thing used to be, and now this new information is the new way. But it's not like that. So I understand that you state that, okay, science states that after, not up until so many weeks, it's not a viable life. But the law says something different. And so when a woman is having an abortion after, I think it's
6 weeks based on Texas, because it's considered the heartbeat law.
Has a heartbeat. Anything with a heartbeat that is, taking out of a woman is could be considered murder. So therefore, there goes your right to privacy. So do you see how they're able to invade? Listen, there's a saying, and it's an old saying, is they use probable cause to break laws. I mean, it's, you give them a reason, and they're what rights you thought you had, they no longer exist because they have a reason to overstep that. It's just the way that, like, it's written to the advantage of the enforcer.
I'm gonna take a moment because
I know it's.
Because when you say that, I immediately think about how women will lose the ability to have autonomy over their own fucking bodies. And then you have states like Florida that have passed a 15-week ban with no exceptions. Which means if you seek an abortion after 15 weeks and you've been raped, or through incest, or it's a threatening to your life, you cannot have an abortion. And I know how some people will say, people that don't have a uterus, or people that maybe have never been pregnant, don't understand how that's even possible. How they'll say 15 weeks. How do you not know when you're pregnant at 15 weeks? There are many women throughout this country that have irregular periods, that their periods do not come regularly. So if they were to get pregnant, it's very possible that they wouldn't even know that they were pregnant until they started showing severe signs of pregnancy. Because I know women personally that get a period like 3 times a year.
Now, isn't there a form of birth control that
can regulate it?
No, that prevents you from having a period.
Yes.
And you have a period
once every 3 months.
Once every 3 months.
Yeah, I was on that.
And you can still get pregnant.
If you fail to take your birth control, I think, correctly, there always is a small percentage of pregnancy. However, I've known many women to get pregnant on the types of birth controls that are inserted, like the IUD.
Right.
It gets moved. A woman gets pregnant. She has no thought the wiser because she's thinking, I'm protected.
Well, what I was trying to get at is that they could be on that birth control where they don't get their period until every 3 months, get pregnant, and then not know anything until their expected period doesn't come. Mm-hmm. So easily, you got
12 weeks.
There are 12 weeks right there. Mm-hmm. So it was just in support to what the argument that you were
and
stating.
And you're aware of this because I was on that birth control.
Mm-hmm.
This was a while back, but it was called seasonal. I got my period once every 3 every 3 months. But again, like I said, I know women firsthand that have irregular periods. I know women that don't even get their fucking period.
That's crazy.
And it's something that they have to deal with, but they still have the ability to get pregnant, even though they don't potentially have a regular period. I've literally seen it happen.
So they don't have a chance in hell.
None, unless you live where we live.
Yeah.
I was saying earlier that there are things that I'm seeing and things that I'm reading, which I'm sure a lot of other people are seeing and reading, and I kind of just wanted to share some of them and kind of go over the thoughts that came to mind when I saw these things that are, traveling all over social media, because right now people are angry. So they're sharing information about thoughts on abortion. So one of the things that I saw more recently was, these are tweets that are being shared. And it says, this is one that I read. It says, forced birth in a country with the highest maternal mortality rate, no paid maternity leave, no universal subsidized child care, no continued birth parent care, and frequently inaccessible mental health care. So you have conservatives fighting to protect life. This is their argument, right? But we as a nation have the highest mortality rate in women pregnant and after birth, post, out of all well-established nations. Make that make sense.
I can't, and I'm sorry. And I can't help but to think too that some of these conservatives, like the ones that are well off, mm-hmm. that one of their daughters, gets knocked up by the pool boy, and that they wouldn't think twice about
because
getting that taken care of.
And to go even a little bit further, because when I read this, the highest maternal mortality rate in the United States, of course, women of color are more disproportionately dying versus non-people of color, which is white women.
Mm-hmm.
On average, about 17% out of every 100,000 births ends in death to the mother. In comparison to other developed nations, such as France, Sweden, Canada, United Kingdom, where they're in the low numbers, like 5%, 8%. We are at 17%.
And that's because of the healthcare system that they have, right?
There are a lot of things in place that take play into why these countries, these developed countries, because, you know, I thought the United States was the greatest country in the world, right? These other countries, these developed countries, just like we are, have other things in place that help aid the mother. So let's take France, for example. Something that I read that I thought was so interesting is that they have more access to prenatal care more readily than we do here in the United States. They have more midwives than we have here in the United States. So women have more access to health care when it comes to their pregnancy versus here in the United States. Now, again, because people of color are more disproportionately affected by mortality rate when it comes to being a pregnant woman, the way that I look at it is if some of these laws were to go into place, let's say they do overturn Roe versus Wade, people of color are going to be more disproportionately affected by this because of their lack of access to proper fucking healthcare and education about sex. So just like you said, you have a conservative that has fucking money, that is in a higher percentage of wealth in comparison to people who are more poverty stricken. Their access to essential health care is at their fingertips. So let's be real in this conversation. Are they really going to be affected by this? Absolutely not. It's going to be the people that are poor, lower middle class.
And that's usually the way that it is as far as, you know, getting the brunt of the shit. It's usually the lower middle class. And then, any which way you fucking paint it.
And then let's talk a little bit about, you know, again, the argument is, you know, we respect human life. Why the fuck does the United States not have paid maternity leave? They have FMLA, the Family Leave Act. Yeah, 12 weeks. That's fucking great. It's unpaid. When I had both of my children, my first child was natural birth. I got 6 weeks and I had to file for disability. So a woman giving birth is considered disabled, and that's how you can get some sort of money.
And you know, the answer to that question is pretty easy for me. And it's the money's fucking being spent on other shit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we obviously as a country, we spend more than we make.
So, like, think about it. We're the greatest country in the world, right?
We're the economic superpower. Mm-hmm. I mean, as far as
are we?
We are.
I don't know, because China's
on
our fucking tailcoats.
Currently, we are.
I know.
mean, the way that the U.S. set up its economy, mm-hmm. and the way that it just prints money. It's not only prints money, but the way the dollar transacts throughout other countries. Mm-hmm. Everything is settled in dollars.
Yeah.
So, like, if China was to buy oil from Russia, that transaction is to be settled in dollars. Like, they cannot settle that in yen. Mm-hmm. And that itself just says alone the power of the United States. I mean, that's the way it is all over the world. Everything is settled in dollars. So that's really one of the reasons why
I fucking totally agree with you. You know, because we got money at the ass to pay for fucking war. We got money out the ass to pay for fucking military weapons.
A lot of the agreements that were made is a lot of countries agreed to do this because United States would provide them with a lot of things like military support and weapons and whatever things that they need, things that they couldn't get on their own. Mm-hmm. And so part of that agreement would be, okay, but anything that you do, you settle in dollars, which therefore strengthened the American economy. It was fucking, I mean, if you think about it, back then it's really genius.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Furthermore, about 35% of the U.S. population receives paid maternity leave through their job. 30%. That means the other 70% of women
are fucked.
70%.
These are mothers we're talking about. Like, these should be some of the most cared for people in the world.
We're only bringing human life into the world.
That's it.
This human life that is considered so valuable.
Yeah.
But can't get paid maternity leave. Can't get our government, but we can get people to fight for these laws to stop women.
We don't want you to have an abortion, okay? But
we don't want you to stay home with that baby.
You're not staying home, and we're not helping you stay home.
Correct.
To raise this child.
Correct.
That we don't want you to abort. We don't give a fuck how poor you are. We don't give a fuck if you don't got no food. Try to sign up for food stamps. Good luck with that shit. And if you know what I'm saying, and if you get it, you might not get much because we're giving $1 million and something dollars. You know, I don't even know how real this is, and this is a little bit of a side note, but I saw somebody post a receipt for a EBT purchase. Right? They picked it up because I guess the person discarded it, and they picked it up, and there was $7 million on balance on this EBT card. Like that, if that don't fucking say scam, I don't know what the fuck does.
I mean, I don't know how real that is, but anyway,
there is some reality to it because there's been people that have been brought up on charges for millions of dollars for scamming the fraud of the food stamp system.
Well, I don't want that to. I don't really want to move our conversation in that way because that's really gonna get the conservatives fucking riled up.
This is public information. I don't give a shit. Let them get riled up.
No, but what I'm saying is that is part of the argument. Ivo, is the abuse of certain of social services that are. I don't want to get into that argument because that's another argument that pisses me off.
The point that I was just trying to make is I think it was fucked up that you're stating that there's no paid family leave, but yet they're trying to take away a woman's right to abort a child for whatever reason. Maybe she might feel like she can't
abort a fetus.
Thank you. For the simple reason, maybe she feels like she can't afford to take care of it.
And then the argument is, why didn't she protect herself? And then we can go back and forth on that argument all fucking day because I'm going to share a story. When I got pregnant with Anthony, I was using contraceptive and I still got pregnant.
It happens.
So what do we do in that case?
So do you think that it would be a fair proposition to at least instate some type of support for women in the event that Roe v Wade is overturned? So let's just say, okay, fine. Worst case scenario, it's overturned. But then all of this support is now brought for women. Paid maternity leave.
Paid what?
Paid. I know I chopped that up. Paid maternity leave.
So are you asking me, because I feel like I understand what you're going to ask. So you're saying if this constitutional right gets overturned, but then all the support that we are lacking right now, which is, right to contraceptive, prenatal health care, paid maternity leave, if all these things are then, the money is then transitioned to that, are you asking me, is that like some sort of...
No, what I'm saying is that do you feel that at least if Roe v Wade is overturned, that at a minimum that should happen?
Honestly, Ivo, I think that should fucking happen regardless. I am not 100% not okay with Roe v Wade being overturned, Ivo, because women lose the right to their autonomy of their own body. You are saying that I don't have the right to choose what I want to do with my own body.
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
So I can't even fathom.
I'm just trying to discuss a scenario as to where, in the worst case scenario, right, as far as what your point of view is, worst case scenario would be that it is overturned.
You know what I think?
What would you like to see happen?
Sure. Okay, so you're asking me what would I like to see happen if this constitutional right is overturned?
Yes.
I want all women to become lesbians and never fuck a man ever again unless they are conservative. I'm 100% fucking serious when I say that.
Okay, so that's a little illogical.
Why is that illogical?
Because that's...
Because honestly, Ivo, that is very logical.
No, it's not.
Why?
You're suggesting that if Roe v Wade
is overturned,
that no women Only conservative
women. The conservative women can continue to be with men as much as they want because then they got what they wanted, right? So then.
But the liberal women.
Yes.
No sex with men.
No.
None whatsoever.
Zero. Why do what do we need men for?
Okay, so for one, how is that fair to all the men that had nothing to do with this decision? And two,
I'm sorry to say, well, say two first. Okay.
And two, not all women. I mean, I can't say this because I can't speak for women, but it is my opinion that not all women are going to feel that way.
Yeah, for sure. You're asking me hypothetically.
Right. So what I'm saying, I'm asking you realistically.
Yeah, realistically.
What would you like to see happen? Something that is actually an actual possibility. Something that could actually happen. So,
why is it that you think that your hypothetical scenario is, if Roe V Wade is overturned, then maybe women should receive all the support when it comes to pregnancy and childcare? That's your hypothetical.
I'm asking if that's something that you would like to see, at a minimum. And your answer to me was what you would like to see was XYZ. So you never really answered my question.
Because I wouldn't like to see that.
Okay, fine.
Because Yvonne, I'm sorry that I'm not giving you the answer that.
That's okay.
Because
I know this is a very sensitive subject for you, and I'm not gonna pressure you to answer something that you're not comfortable answering. No, I thought it was a legitimate question.
It is a legitimate. Excuse me. It is a legitimate question, but you want me to say, yeah, at a minimum I would like that, or at a minimum I wouldn't.
Yeah, yes or no.
So no, I don't want that, because then that would mean that that Roe v. Wade would be overturned. So that is not a scenario that I'm even would consider. I'm 100% serious when I say that women should withhold sex from men. And I'm sorry that you're saying, how is that fair to men? How is it fair to women that we would lose autonomy over our bodies?
It's not fair.
I know.
To women.
So
that decision is not being made by all men.
Correct.
All over the country.
I understand that.
You're stating that because of a decision that was made by a small group of people, that all men in the country should suffer.
I didn't say all men.
Okay, all of the liberal men should suffer because of this decision. That, I mean, I would like to think that men would suffer because of this. Yes, there would be no intimacy with these men and their wives, their spouses.
They could still have intimacy. They just wouldn't be women.
Okay, I think that although this topic and this discussion of overturning Roe versus Wade, in my opinion, is extreme, I think what you're suggesting is very extreme as well.
Yeah, because then I'm just gonna meet the government on the other end. So if you want to control my body, then maybe I should control human life, and put a fucking standstill to that.
You don't have the power to do that.
Yes, I do.
Well, you don't have the power to control everyone's decision.
No, but I sure as hell have the power.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you can control your own decisions, but you're suggesting something that unanimously.
Well, it's not unanimous. Again.
Okay, you're suggesting.
It would maybe be the 55% of women that are pro-choice. Ivo, I'm just telling you what I think, because if you don't want to give us access to birth control, if you don't want to give us access to universal health care, if you don't want to give us access to abortions, then you're telling me that my current life has no value to the government other than to conceive life when it's under the terms of law.
I'm not telling you anything.
No, but this is the way that the government is potentially looking at things. I should only have a baby.
Well, it's not even really the government. It's the Supreme Court's.
Fine.
The Supreme Court justices.
I should only have a baby. I should only conceive life when all my fucking ducks are in a row, because that's the way life happens, right? Life just happens fucking perfectly like that. So because, you know, conservatives are so fucking perfect, right? Where, you know, they just line everything up perfectly. So I think the only way to stop it at what's that word? To stop it, like, at the beginning, at the source.
Okay.
Is to never get pregnant. And the only way to never get pregnant is to never have sex with a man, right? Forget about birth control. Forget about abstaining. No, because we've spoken about this on previous podcasts. Women are not even having enjoyable orgasmic sex with men at a higher rate.
That's a whole nother issue.
I know, but like, women...
You said you didn't want to spin off to something else.
I know, but you did, so I'm going to really quick. So, more women in same-sex relationships are having better sex. So then why not just go that route anyway? And then we will never have to worry about accidentally getting pregnant ever.
But see, there are women that want to have children. I mean, women...
Even we can still have children without men. Do you know how many sperm banks are available? That's not against the law.
So men can protest not to donate their sperm anymore.
It's too late. The sperm's already there.
Okay. Again, we're talking about something that can carry on into... If this is something that you say... I'm gonna entertain this for a second, right? Women don't have sex with men. Okay. Or liberal women don't have sex with liberal men ever again. They just start having sex with themselves. Right. Sperm banks are full and yada, yada, yada. And women can still have babies because they can go to the sperm banks. Those reserves of sperm are going to eventually deplete. If women are going to protest to not have sex with men, then I'm sure men are going to protest to not donate sperm. All right. And at some point that sperm is going to run out and you're going to have women that are not going to be able to have babies. And so what do you have, a deadlock at that point? Like, yeah, shrug your shoulders. Fine.
Not really. I mean, because there's another scenario that I could think of that I'm not going to go deep down that hole with you right now, because when I say it, I think it would blow your fucking mind. But
so then why even mention it?
I think it would take the conversation really, really left field, but I think that there's an additional scenario in that.
So you know what? So let's not get into that.
Okay, so I want to read, because I told you that I wanted to share some other things that I was seeing and hearing on social media.
Wait, okay, but sure. Before you go, I just want to, so because you never really answered my
sure.
Okay, so then what's the middle ground? What do you think is there's because there's a decision has to be made.
It's already happening.
Which is what?
States are already taking into play their own rules when it comes to abortion. It's already happening. They're still allowing abortion, but certain states are saying can't do it after 6 weeks. You can't do it after 15 weeks. You can't do it after 13 weeks.
But that's not my question.
It's still
my question is to you.
Sure.
What is, in your opinion, what is the middle ground? Like, if you could make a decision right now and that decision were to be final and it would be a middle ground, right? An unbiased middle ground opinion to address both sides and both concerns, what would that be?
I would do it based on science. I don't think any abortion should happen after 25 weeks unless it threatens the life of the mother.
Okay. Thank you. Now, what is it that you want to read?
That would be the only way that I could see it being somewhat of a middle ground. Because at that point, it's viable life based on science.
Okay.
So if we're going to respect the human life aspect, but that's still not really what I would want. Anyway, something else that I read, it was another tweet that says, to be clear, overturning Roe isn't about protecting human life. Conservatives want nothing to do with the mother or their babies, their medical care, their education, feeding them, or anything about their existence. This is about control.
Yeah, I have some notes on that too, but I didn't want to get into that because that's more like on the political side of shit.
Sure. And then let me read this last one, because I know that these are tweets and Insta stories that people are reading and they're triggering, you know? And the last one that I have is, just so we're clear, the pregnancy that ends up in the wrong spot, like in the fallopian tubes. Again, I know women that this has happened to. The one that will never turn into a baby and will rupture and kill your wife, your daughter, or your sister. Terminating that fetus, also an abortion. And they want to ban those too.
But isn't that... Okay. Never mind. I get what you're saying.
It's called an ectopic pregnancy.
Yeah.
Pregnancies that develop in the fallopian tubes that can kill a woman. A woman has to abort it, or otherwise she can die.
Right. Yeah, I know.
So what's to say that this woman doesn't figure this out until she has irregular periods and doesn't find out that she's pregnant until 16 weeks?
Yeah, and so these are the complex reasons why I feel, and it's my personal opinion, that this will not go through. Amongst many, I just feel like there's so many things that are against this decision. Mm-hmm. Even though there is the argument that the Supreme Court justices back in 1973 should have never made a decision on the case in favor of Roe and made it a constitutional right for women to have the right to an abortion, okay? Because that takes away the right and the ability for states and the people to regulate that, okay? But it happened. It went into law. Overturning it would just be so much more of a complication. I mean, we've had 50 years of this being in play, and the shitstorm that it's going to cause for what? For morals? I mean, I feel like we've evolved so much as a human species to know better.
And I just feel like, whose morals? Because those are not my morals. Right. Your truth is not my truth. Right. So please don't impose your truths on me.
And I agree.
I do not agree with your values. I don't agree with the way that you choose to live your life when you want to impose it on me. Do what it is that you want. The only thing that I ask is that we not harm each other as human beings because we want to live, right?
Right.
And when I say harm, I mean walking around human able bodies. Because like right now, and I was talking to a fellow artist today, and I said, I just feel like we're going backwards. Literally, I feel like we're going backwards. The women that had to fight for rights to do certain things as a woman, how Roe had to fight to have an abortion that she wound up never having because by the time the fucking court case was over, she had the baby. She wound up giving up for adoption.
But she fought for the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, it was bigger than her.
I just think to myself, like, I hurt for these women in the past, and I wrote this in a post. I said, me and Ivo have been really having a hard time sitting down trying to have this discussion because I hurt for the women in the past that maybe died at the hands of, an illegal abortion, or that had to bring forth a child into the world that they had it's kind of hard for me to say, that they had to bring a child into the world that was maybe brought onto them through rape or incest. Oprah tells a story about how she was being raped,
right,
and then got pregnant and had to hide the pregnancy. These things happen. So I hurt for the women in the past because, like, I couldn't even imagine, like, this conversation, like, what it may be bringing up for some women. Because, a lot of these women are still alive. I hurt for the women right now in the present that are young, that are very fertile, and, like, are probably, like, afraid right now. And I hurt for the women in the future. Because it's like, can you just leave us the fuck alone? Like, honestly, that's how I feel. Like, just leave us the fuck alone because Kamala Harris said it best when she was speaking to Brett Kavanaugh. Are there any laws that govern the male body?
I can't answer that question because I don't know.
No, she asked him. He is a Supreme Court justice. This is when he was being appointed. Mm-hmm. No, because there are zero. But you know what I find interesting? Viagra is covered by health insurance. Why are we giving men pills to get an erection, but we can't give women access to free birth? What? Like, what are we even talking about? But women can't get paid maternity leave, but men can get their dick pills fucking covered? Like, I don't understand the thought process behind this, but
It's a good point.
I just look at it like, you know, the government wants to have a hand in what a woman can or can't do. And that is something that we have seen throughout history. Women have had to fight to fucking get, just to be seen as like a human. Because we were considered sub.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. Again, you've mentioned it before a few times. It's not the government that is looking to, this is not, you know, two parties coming together, proposing a bill to bring in something into law, XYZ. Mm-hmm. This is something totally separate. Mm-hmm. You know, and so I think that, you know, we shouldn't just throw that out there where it's the government.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm just angry.
I know. And so lastly, before we go, because we're a little bit over the time here, I just want to ask you, and I know this is a little bit of a tough question, but I'm wondering if you ever gave it any thought, where do you see this case going? Analyzing it the way that you have and gathering all the information that you have. I mean, if you really had to make a prediction on where your honest opinion, where do you see this going? Where is that?
I see it happening because we have 6 conservatives.
Okay.
And when Trump appointed the 3 that he put, which were 3 conservatives, that was part of his presidential campaign. He was pro-life. And that's why he appointed 3 conservative Supreme Court justices. I personally think it is going to happen. Now, will it happen as a complete ban countrywide? I don't know. Maybe they will, you know, tweak it somehow.
So you think that this is kind of the way of them doing it but not doing it, right? So they'll overturn Roe versus Wade and then kind of like let the states figure it out.
Well, the states will still have the ability to figure it out.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're no longer in the business of
protecting women's right to choose,
regulating abortion, and protecting women's rights to choose for an abortion. Yeah. They're actually withdrawing from the whole situation, just letting the states decide amongst themselves. And you feel like that would be a favorable outcome.
I don't think it's going to be favorable. I think it's going to cause fucking riots.
A favorable outcome for the conservatives.
Oh yeah, it's going to be seen as a win, 100%.
Okay. Good to know.
So I want to ask you, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I said already.
Okay, so you did.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I did. That's
so I guess the better question, or what I want to end with, is how do you feel about that for women? I know that you said you're for women's rights, but how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel terribly sad for women. This whole shit is heart-wrenching for me. You know, like I've been very vocal about this on our show. I've said it multiple times. I feel that women should have so much more provided to them because of the fact that they give birth to life. There's so many things that they have to deal with after giving birth on their own that to me is fucked up. And to now take away their right to decide whether they want to provide that life or not is just adding more fucking shit to the fucking pie. Women get a shitty deal to begin with, you know, overall. And I think that this is just fucking smearing more shit on top of it. So, you know, I don't like it. I don't like any of it.
Well, before I get emotional, because don't be sorry. It's, I'm really fighting it back because, man, when I tell you this shit got me angry. That's all we have for you this Friday.
That brings us to the end of the show. We hope you guys and women enjoyed this topic. It was a very personal one and deep for us, and I think that it was hard. We covered a lot of good stuff, and we hope that you enjoyed it. I
would love to hear people's voices when it comes to this, so please leave comments, DM us, however the fuck you want to get in touch with us. I would love to hear what you have to say, whether you are pro-life or pro-choice, because I'm still willing to listen.
Yes. Absolutely. We'd love to have an open discussion about it.
Yeah.
But until next time.
Yeah, until next time.
See you here on Shit Talk Fridays.
Peace out.
Peace out.